Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So got something pretty special today. Got the EMAX NightHawk Pro 280 size racing quadcopter today for review. And this is a review model from gearbest.com. I will have the links in the description of where you can pick this up down below. So check that out to see where you can buy this from. But anyway, what we're going to be doing today is taking this out of the box, doing an initial out of the box review. And then we're going to go to the park in part 2. This is going to be part 1. So then we're going to go to the park in part 2 and then do a final pros and cons in part 2. So with part 1, we're just going to take it out of the box, kind of do an initial inspection, kind of do a setup, make sure everything works, and get it ready for going to the park and doing our tests. So first of all, it comes in this box here. It's called the NightHawk Pro 700 TVL camera, glass fiber construction, 280 frame. It's got 6-inch 45-degree propellers, and it's got a built-in video transmitter, which you can change between 20 milliwatt and 200 milliwatt. I'm not sure why you'd ever want to use 20 milliwatt, but usually 200 milliwatt, you're going to want to have the highest power for clear video and longer range. And it's 5.8 gigahertz, of course. Comes with a 3 cloverleaf antenna. And then this is the RTF version, which does come with the transmitter. So 2.4 gigahertz transmitter, and then the receiver is built in to the copter. And then it's got this kind of cool light on the back. It's like an LED light. So let's get started with the initial out of the box. Okay, so when you open the box up, here's some bubble wrap for protection. We got our manual. Kind of greets us on the top. This will run through all the components, run through how to hook everything up, run through the way the motors spin, and just how to put all the parts on, how to get it kind of ready for flight. So first of all, they give you a couple of bags, and the first bag includes our 6-inch propellers, Velcro strap, probably for the battery, and then a couple of more sticky Velcro pieces. Got a bunch of cabling here, just a bunch of different cables for all different kinds of things you might want to hook up. And then we have our USB cable, looks like a micro USB to regular USB for probably hooking this into the computer for flight control configuration. And then this is the second bag, the only other bag in the package. And this one has your cloverleaf antenna. So you got your 3-leaf cloverleaf FPV antenna, which we'll be mounting on the quadcopter. Vibration dampening camera mount for like a GoPro or a run cam or something like that. We can mount it on top. And then here's an alternate camera mount. This looks like the camera mount if you wanted to just have the camera going straight out of the quad. The one that comes with is probably the one that's a little bit slanted. So if you did want to go back to a level camera, FPV camera, you put this in. And then these are the motor degree tilts plates. So these plates, as you can see, they've got a little bit of a lip tilt on them. So you'll put these underneath the motors once you get better, and so this will give you some more speed when flying. And then it looks like these are the antenna mounts and the antenna tubes to run your receiver antennas in. Then the last bag is just a bunch of screws, so probably random screws for different things we're going to be connecting. And here's the controller. So it looks like the controller is kind of that the controller that a lot of models use. For example, this is the controller from the Flying 3D X8 GPS quadcopter I reviewed previously, and you can see the form factor is almost exactly the same. And I think it's eSky or FreeSky that manufactures these ones, but it's basically the same exact controller, and they're just basically changing it up a bit, putting their own branding on it. This one's got a screen here, and then this one that comes with the EMAX doesn't have a screen. The Flying 3D X8 has telemetry, so when you are flying that one, you get the telemetry displayed on the screen here. So just your basic controller. You've got your left and right yaw, you've got your throttle here on the left, and then basically your pitch and roll on the right stick. So it'd be your pitch, your roll. And so basically looking in the manual for the controls on these top toggles here, it looks like this one's inactive. We could probably program that, maybe do some other modes, but it looks like it's only using this right one for now. and the right one is your angle mode, horizon mode, and manual mode. We will test all these in the field just to make sure what I'm saying is correct here. Make sure I test all those in the part 2 of the flight test. And then as far as your motor arming and disarming, when the craft is on and your throttle's down, basically you're just going to take this stick and go to the bottom right, and that's going to arm your motors. And then to disarm your motors is just the opposite direction. You're just going to pull it to the bottom left to disarm. And then as far as gyro and accelerometer calibration, you're going to basically just have it on with the throttle down like this. Bring the right stick down, and then the bottom left stick will go to the bottom left. That'll calibrate your gyro. And then for the accelerometer, you're going to want to bring the right stick down and then the left stick to the top left and hold them there for accelerometer calibration. And then the last thing in the box, it looks like just a bind plug for the controller if you need to rebind to the receiver for some reason. So enough about all the other stuff you get in the box. Let's check out the main product here, which is the actual EMAX NightHawk Pro. So here it is. So it's a carbon fiber glass. Looks like it's got pretty thick arms here. It's got EMAX 2300 kV motors on it. Here you can see the FPV camera with the angled camera mount there, pointing up a few degrees here. Looks like maybe about 10 degrees there. And then this is where you would put those motor angles. Once you did get a little bit better, you would basically put these underneath the motors. Put these underneath the motors, and that will give you some more motor tilt to tilt forward for faster flying. And then here's the receiver here for the transmitter with all of our plugins here for all the channels. Pretty clean, pretty simple. They have all the cabling wrapped with this nice wire wrapping mesh here. It looks like the bottom plate is the actual flight controller board integrated here. And then you have the motors, which you actually can plug in to the bottom board. So it looks like easy switching. You just clip this tie wrap, unplug the motor if you have a fried motor or something, damaged motor. Unscrew these 4 screws and swap out the motors. It's got this nice red anodizing here for the frame supports. Then you've got your ports here. Looks like we have an on-off switch. Looks like for the ESCs for doing some testing. Micro USB port here where you'd connect this to your computer and configure the onboard flight controller. Then we have a couple more connections here. And as far as the flight controller goes, it's using a NAS 32 Skyline flight controller, one of the more popular flight controllers that's kind of integrated into the power distribution board with all the other circuitry. And then getting to the back here, we have our video transmitter. So this is the switchable 200 milliwatt or 20 milliwatt transmitter, video transmitter. And this is where we're going to plug in our antenna. So it might be a good idea to put this lock washer on just in case you crash or something, this thing doesn't wiggle loose. Then they don't give you any tools in the bag. So from some of my other antennas, my IB Crazy Bluebeam antennas, I got this little nut tightening tool. And what this tool does is it's kind of cool. It tightens enough to where when it's too tight, it'll just slip. So you can't strip the threads. But anyway, that's how you tighten on the FPV antenna. Then here's where you're going to plug in your 3S or 4S battery here. This is a XT60 connector. And then you've got your transmitter receiver antenna. And it looks like they just tie wrap this here. What I'm probably going to do is definitely going to install these little antenna posts just to make sure we get the best signal and range. And then back near the rear here, at the rear actually, we have this nice LED strip that's going to be really bright while we're racing, just for better indication of for the other racers of where your craft's at to prevent crashing and stuff. Then you can see with all basically the wires, they have this nice cool looking black wire mesh on here that really makes the thing look nice and clean. So here's the bottom here. This is the integrated, the whole flight controller, power distribution boards, all integrated here. And then looking further in, we can kind of see the CPU and everything is kind of it's kind of mounted. It's a little tough to see from this angle, but you can see this ribbon cable kind of comes from the bottom board and goes up onto this. Probably the main accelerometer is mounted on this little foam pad for a vibration dampening there. So looks like it's pretty well done. Pretty impressed. There's a few switches here and there. Looks like where you can switch the VTX transmitter power, and then also you've got a few more plugs for if you wanted to run your own VTX system. And right in here, it looks like this would be the power selection for the video transmitter. So you could go from 20 watt to 200 milliwatt. I mean, from 20 milliwatt to 200 milliwatt with this switch. I think it comes from the factory at 20 milliwatt, so I'm definitely going to be switching this to 200 milliwatt. Then on the bottom here, you're going to get this little channel selection. This is where you would go through your 32 different channels. I think this is a Boss Cam type of video transmitter. And then interestingly on the bottom here, it looks like they have a magnetic ferrite core around the video transmitter, the video and the power for it. So that's good. That's going to definitely negate a lot of the interference from the video, from other electronics on board the craft. So that should give us a bit clearer of a video with the least amount of interference. Anyway guys, first assessment out of the box is pretty good. I'm really digging the simplistic and durable looking nature of this. You can see how thick these arms are. And that's the glass carbon fiber mixture, so should be really durable. I've heard some good things about this from some of the guys that are starting out with FPV on our race club here on Maui, so I'm going to be really anxious to try this in the field. And then it's got a really open look to it, so it looks like you can either put a battery in here or you could actually put a battery on top as well. And then this is where we're going to mount our vibration plate for our recording camera, so I'm going to do that really quick. Looks like they give you 5 in the bag. You're only going to need 4. There is no hole in the middle here, so I'm just going to use 4 of these. We got 1 spare just in case we lose one. So we're just going to be basically putting all these in these little holes. Might need like a little mini screwdriver just to help push the edges in. Okay, so we're going to do that for all 4 of them. Alright, so got all 4 of these on the top plate. Now we just need to do the same thing and get them all in this, the holes actually on the frame here. Okay, so that's all 4 dampers pushed into the holes, mounting on the camera plate. So let's move on now to the receiver wire, and we're going to mount it with these little mounts and tubes here. Okay, so it does look like they give you a couple of options here with the antenna mounting plate here. And as you can see, there's 2 pieces here that go together. And if you wanted to put your own receiver in that had dual antennas, you would probably put them in these 2 side slots. But since this one only has a single antenna coming out, this is where we would use the single slot on top. And we're just going to have a single antenna sticking up just like this. Kind of how it shows in the picture here, where there's just one single antenna. Just basically going to take these 2 pieces here, put the antenna in the top. So now basically I'm just going to run the antenna up through this little square towards the camera mount. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the tube now. So going up through the tube. And then just kind of lean it towards the side here. Kind of wedge it in like that. And then basically just putting on the other piece like so. So now that everything it looks secure, going to go ahead and screw all these little screws in to hold this together. So what's a little bit interesting for me on this antenna mounting bracket here is if you do have it mounted kind of where it looks like it's supposed to go in this notch, it's kind of pressing up against the camera dampening mount, which doesn't really make sense to me because then any vibration that's coming through the chassis, and then since this is attached to the chassis, it's going to transfer through the camera dampening mount. So it looks like they give you a little double-sided sticky tape in the box as well, and I think maybe that's like a kind of a design change issue they had, where I think instead of that they want you to mount it a little bit back from that mount with the double-sided sticky tape right here. So I'll be doing that actually. So we're just putting the sticky tape on the bottom of the antenna mount. And I'm just going to stick it right in the center here. There we go. You can see that. See how it's mounted a little bit further back from the camera mounting plate, just to give us a little more space for our camera, as well as not mess with the dampening of the camera dampening plate. I gave you this little 12-volt port on the side here, right here. It's labeled buzzer. So this is where you could plug in like a little buzzer for a low voltage cutoff. Not low voltage cutoff, but a low voltage warning that you would set in the software once you hook the quad up to your computer. And it looks like they give you a cable for that in this little package here. They don't include a buzzer in the box. That would have been nice if they did include a buzzer, but they didn't. So I'm probably going to eventually want to get a buzzer on here just to make sure I'm not still flying around when my battery's too low. Otherwise you'll destroy your batteries. So installing the battery strap, I'm going to go ahead and put the battery in the center like so. Bottom center. A little more protection from crashes, and also it'll keep the center of gravity a little lower if that really matters. And so what I want to do is install this strap right here through the bottom. And so when I do strap it up, I'm just strapping it right on the bottom plate. This middle one here seems like it's the thickest out of all of these 3 chassis plates. So I want to strap it directly to that one. I thought about strapping it to this top one, but I think it'll be a little more structurally durable if I strap it directly to this one here. So if you do decide to mount your battery strap like mine here, and you want to get it under here, just take like a screwdriver, a small screwdriver like this or something, and just kind of help it push through the bottom, but over all the cabling, so you're not pulling and pinching the cabling when you tighten it up. There we go. Okay, so when strapping the battery in, more on the battery, sorry. When strapping the battery in, what I found is after you kind of put the battery in, the strap is so long that it kind of lets you have a little extra. So what I'm going to do is basically be strapping this down and then running it across the bottom of the chassis since the strap is so long, and then coming back up and reattaching right in here. And what this will do is it'll keep the battery in nice and tight, but it will also give these 2 sandwich pieces a little bit of extra support from this Velcro grip, since it is basically wrapping underneath this, coming around the battery, and then coming back underneath this. It's kind of a added little support as well as holding in the battery. I guess you just don't want to go too tight, because then you're going to be starting to squeeze this board together, and you don't want to break anything. So just tight enough so that the battery won't move too easily. Would have liked to seen one more of these, maybe a thinner one for something like a camera like this that would fit right in this groove here. I think most people do a Velcro strap on their camera, so it would have been nice to see that in the package along with the buzzer, which was also missing. So what I would recommend before you mount your camera on and are ready to go out is just to put on like a little zip tie that's not really affecting the dampening ability of the camera mount, but just something that's loosely kind of securing it besides the rubber dampeners. The rubber dampeners on this are pretty heavy duty and will probably keep it from flying off in most crashes, but if you have a major crash, Usually these things just fly off in all directions and you lose some of the rubber feet, as well as you might lose that top plate depending on where you're racing. Like if you're in tall grass or in some trees, you definitely want to put something on there to kind of mitigate that loss. Something like that, and then just zip tie it together. And you don't want it to really pull down the dampener, you just want it to hold everything to kind of together, and if you get in a major crash. And then we can clip this and hide the big portion down. Push that bulb kind of down underneath there so it doesn't affect the camera mount, like so. There we go. So we still have our dampening ability, but if we do knock this and get in a crash, this should hold everything together. So I'll probably use the Mobius or Run Cam on the craft. You could even use some kind of GoPro, it looks like. Just strap it the other way using these notches here. So I kind of thought about the antenna mount for a little bit, and I wanted it to be just a little more stronger on the body than just that little piece of double-sided sticky tape they gave. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of tie wraps in here just to kind of secure it a little stronger. I know I'm going to be crashing, and that double-sided sticky tape that they give you, it just kind of looks like it's going to immediately break off once it flips over. And the problem with that is then it's going to be going into the propellers, and you will chew up your antenna immediately, probably, if you crash on your first couple of crashes. So still kind of learning the rate mode of quadcopters and FPV, not proficient in it yet. So I am going to want to protect from crashing as much as possible right now, like any newbie should. So I'm going to put a couple of these tie wraps in here just to secure this down nice and tight. So I'm going to put one on this side, just kind of mounting it through the hole there, and then coming under the chassis and securing it to the chassis. So I'm going to mount one there, and then I'm actually going to put one more on the other side too. There we go. So that's nice and tight. Not going to be interfering with any batteries up here, since I am not putting batteries on top. I'm going to put the battery in the bottom, so I'm not going to worry about these zip ties sticking out a little bit. That should hold it on a lot better in a crashing scenario. If anything, this plastic tube will kind of bend, and then there's a little bit of slack on the wire in here, so if this bends, everything should be fine. Okay, so at this point, before I put the props on, I want to just make sure that everything works FPV, and you know, want to make sure all the motors spin in the right directions and stuff like that. So we're going to go over that really quick. So the controller just takes the RTF version controller takes 4 AA batteries. What I might be doing too is binding to my Tyrannus controller after a little bit, just see how this is, see how the range is, and then probably switching over to the Tyrannus. But for now, since this is the RTF version, I'm just gonna try it with this radio that comes with it. So, okay, got the batteries in the controller. Going to just boot it up on a 3S real quick and make sure all the motors are rotating correctly and everything's looking good, and then see if we can get it on the FPV as well. Okay, so there's a boot up chime. I'm going to turn on the controller. And really important to make sure that before you boot up, just to reiterate, you do want to have your video transmitter antenna on, otherwise you may burn out the transmitter. It always needs to have an antenna on there before you turn on. So really important you do this. Put this on first. Okay, so we're on, and I just want to make sure the motors are all good. So arming should be on the bottom right. Okay. Okay, so there's our arming. So it looks like the motors spin up when you do arm, and I may want to change that. So just for now, I'm not going to adjust any of the flight controller settings. I'm just going to take it into the field stock, do some testing, And then what I'll do is I'll bring my laptop to the park, and if I see the need for any adjustments, I'll go ahead and videotape me doing some adjustments at the park as well, just so you guys can see the adjustments I make and the changes I make. So anyway, what we're looking for is we want the motors to be spinning, the backs want to be spinning into the back here, like so, and the fronts want to be spinning into the front. Both fronts want to be spinning into the front as well. So that's all we're looking for right now. Okay, good, great. Looks like those are working fine. And real quick, gonna hook up the FPV system, the goggles. See how those work. Let's go ahead and find a channel real quick. So in mine out of the box, it looks like the tail light, the LED light is off, and the VTX is off. So there's these two little switches here. You can see these blue switches, one on this side and one on this side. Looks like you need to switch these to the on positions. That one, and then this one here. There we go. So the left one looks like it's turning on the LED, and the right one should be turning on the video transmitter. Okay, so noticing something right off the bat, I went ahead and checked my other set of antennas here, these Bluebeam Ultra antennas from IB Crazy, and I could see that I'm using the set that's right-hand circular polarized, this set here, this combo set, and it looks like the one that comes on the NightHawk is left-hand circular polarized. You can tell by the direction the leaves are going. You see how these ones are going that way and this one's going that way. So basically this is right-hand circular polarized and this is left-hand circular polarized. So what I'm going to need to do is just, unfortunately, I don't have any more of these left-hand, and I'm not going to get very good video in my goggles, so I'm going to go ahead and just put this one on for now and just see how it performs. While we're on the same subject of the video transmitter, basically if you want to go from, basically 20 milliwatt is going to be with this switch facing the front of the quadcopter, and 200 milliwatt is going to be it pushed to the back of the quadcopter. So that's that. And then right off the bat, it looks like the channel setting on this, on the actual VTX itself, all of these are at the bottom. So I think that would be channel 48 as far as what the boss cam frequencies are. So I'm gonna see how that works and change that if needed. And let's see how the video comes out in the goggles. Goggles are on. Basically we get a nice clean video signal, as you can see here. Looks like everything is working good. Nice and clear, no problems. So hopefully we don't have any problems in the field. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is install the props. So they give you these 4 props in the package. And one thing to just keep in mind is when you are putting on the props, just want to make sure that you're putting them on in the right direction. So the way motors work is your threads are going to be threading the opposite way that your propellers are spinning. So that when they do spin, when the motors do spin, the threads are going to be actually getting tighter than looser. Okay, so these two are going to be spinning inwards like that. So we're going to want to have propellers that have the top edge on this side that come in like this. So it looks like in this case it's the 2 black propellers, and then for the back it's going to be the 2 red propellers. So it doesn't look like you need to use the spacers on these propellers. I guess if you wanted to put these on a different craft, you should. I'm not going to balance these propellers right now. This is just kind of an out-of-the-box setup and test with minimal modifications, if any, just putting a little bit of different tie straps on it. Really, that's pretty much all I'm doing. And then when you are tightening your propellers with your wrench, you just want to make sure that you kind of hold the motors and the propeller at the same time, and then tighten them down nice and snug. You don't want the propeller spinning on the shaft. You don't want them like too tight so you're breaking anything, but you want them nice and snug so they're not going to spin or fly off or anything. And so you know what I think as far as a buzzer goes, what I'm going to do is, since I have all this real estate now on the top because the batteries are going to be in the bottom, is I'm just going to put on one of these cheap $2 battery readout buzzers. These are the ones you just plug into your balance wire. And I think I'm just going to Velcro this right to the top. So this is just the Velcro they put in the bag with the copter. So I'm just going to stick it right there in the center. And then stick the other end right here on the middle. Probably going to want to wipe that down with maybe a little bit of alcohol or something, just to get a nice good adhesion. You don't want it to be all oily from your fingers before you stick down anything like this. There we go, easy enough. Just by the initial assessment, it does look like a pretty capable craft here. It is a carbon fiber glass, looks really strong. It looks like it's got a good video system on it. The camera is all pre-mounted and the picture looks nice and clear. Integrated electronics, and the whole bottom board looks like it'll just come off like this. You've got a bunch of options to turn off and on things on the main power board just by flipping a switch. You can change your video transmitter from 20 milliwatt to 200 milliwatt if you wanted to. You can easily access your frequency channels on your transmitter down here. You can easily unplug motors right off of the main power board. If you wanted to buy a few extra motors, you can swap those out, and it looks like they'll be fairly easy. It's a pretty light package. It feels pretty light. I think it'll have some decent flight time. And really cool factor is this LED on the back. I think it's a white LED. I don't think you can change the colors. I am going to be trying this on 3S and 4S. I have a few 3S batteries, 1300 mAh, and also some 4S batteries, which are also 1300. So I'm going to be trying both of these, see how it performs on 3S and 4S. All right, so got everything together. All we need to do is mount battery, mount up and secure the video camera that I'm going to be using, probably a Mobius or a Runcam, and go ahead and test fly this thing at the park in the part 2. So make sure to check back for that, and then come on back to the bench, do a pros and cons, and see how it did. And again, guys, this was a review model from gearbest.com. I will have the links in the description of where you can pick this up if you're interested. And I also do a lot of videos like this, guys, so if you are interested in quadcopters, aerial video, and mods in general, go ahead and check out the channel. I think you'll like it. All right, let's go fly. Thanks for watching.